Yumi by Embracing Cedric on AO3.
Chapter 7. Ochako Uraraka was nothing if not determined. Her fierce resolve often caught people off guard when all they had witnessed before was her warm and bubbly attitude. But it was still an English side of her personality. If she put her mind to something, she'd follow through regardless of any obstacles along the way. So, when she met Izuku Midoriya, her mind and subsequently her actions were set in stone. The hero was incredible. Ochako had only known him in a short while, and their interaction had been limited to friendly conversations and the occasional wave as they passed by each other in the hall, but she already developed a bit of a crush on the boy. How could she not? Midoriya was compassionate and strong-willed hero in training. She had been infinitely fearful that he'd have the same rough edges as Bakugou, but he had not acted nothing short of warm and respectful with the UA students and faculty. Ochako wasn't the only student who had fallen for the green-haired intern. She had heard whispers of students contemplating confessing to Midoriya, and so she knew she needed to act quickly, lest he accept someone else's feelings first. Ochako brushed away her anxiety and insecurities and decided today was the day. She had a plan in action, and passing Midoriya in the hall at the beginning of their lunch period set everything in motion. "Midoriya!" she called out, stopping the boy in his tracks a few feet away. She broke away from her classmates and made her way over to him. "I'm glad I caught you. I was wondering if you'd like to eat lunch together?" Midoriya had taken to eating lunch with Ochako, Iida, and Tsuyu ever since Todoroki had invited him on the second day. He'd also eaten with other friend groups in the class, and even in other classes so he could get to know everyone. But he could be found most often in Uraraka's room. "Oh, I'd love to," Midoriya replied, shuffling around a stack of folders in his arm to get a better grip of them. He flashed her an apologetic smile. "But I actually wanted to catch up on some patient charts and gear design, so I was going to eat lunch in the infirmary." "I could join you," Ochako offered, undefiant. Eating alone would be better than this, anyway. "Unless I'd be in your way." "No, I'm a good multitasker, so that'd be fine," Midoriya said. "But are you sure you want to eat in the infirmary?" "Yeah, I don't mind," Ochako assured, as the two began to walk. Midoriya, true to his words, really was an impressive multitasker. He maintained conversation with Ochako, occasionally adding in his own thoughts, which proved he was truly listening, while also eating his lunch and writing in various notebooks and charts at the infirmary's desk. Ochako wasn't a good multitasker. All she had to do was maintain conversation and eat her lunch on the infirmary bed, but she was also silently forming her confession in her head and merely kicking herself every time she felt like backing out. Her mental prep talks had resulted in their conversation becoming very one-sided, and unfortunately Midoriya screwed and Alex as grew suspicious on her unusual silence. "So is something on your mind?" Midoriya questioned, his expression glowing concern. Ochako's throat tightened, but she took a deep breath and powered through her nervousness. Well, I was wondering if you..." It was now or never. She squeezed her eyes shut and let the words tumble out. "Would you like to go on a date with me?" "A date?" Ochako opened her eyes to see Midoriya's expression shift from worry to deeply apologetic. "Oh, Uraraka, you don't want to?" she quickly guessed, waving her hands in the air as she could wave away the confession itself. "That's fine, I'm fine. Just pretend I didn't say anything." She paused, took a deep breath, and shook her head. "I should go." Ochako gathered up her belongings and began to make her way out of the infirmary, praying her face wasn't too red with embarrassment from being rejected. She heard a shuffle behind her, and quick steps into Midoriya once again entered into her field of vision, his body parallelly blocking her from the exit. "Ochako, wait." "It's fine, really," Ochako assured him, cursing how her voice wavered. She managed a weak smile. "I mean, so many other students here like you, so I'm sure you've already gotten plenty of other confessions, and I bet I'm not one of the best options to choose from, and it's not like that, I swear," Midoriya insisted, waving his own hands in the air. He paused, eyes narrowing in confusion. "Wait, what do you mean other students like me?" "Well, yeah, I mean, look at you." Midoriya blinked, expression showing he was still heartily unconvinced and very confused. Eventually, he shook his head and seemed to file away the complaint in favor of addressing the current situation. His hands remained raised, as if to remind Ochako that he didn't want her to leave. It's really nothing against you, Midoriya promised. You're very sweet and very pretty, and I'm sure if circumstances were different, then I would have loved to go on a date with you, but... Midoriya suddenly looked very conflicted, as if he was debating whether or not to actually want to explain himself. Finally, he sighed and dropped his hands to his side. I'm already dating someone, he confessed. Already? Ochako felt a touch better hearing that she'd been rejected for a different reason than she had thought. Wow, here I was thinking I acted quick. Well, no, I've been dating them since they were first accepted at UA almost 2 years ago, Midoriya explained, rubbing a hand against his neck as he looked increasingly more uncomfortable. That long? Really? Ochako asked. She frowned as she considered his words. But I thought you didn't know any other UA students aside from Bakugou. Ochako watched as Midoriya shrugged, but said nothing to refute her statement. Oh. Oh! Her eyes widened, and Midoriya began to blush. You and Bakugou? Me and Kachan, he confirmed, flashing her a wobbly smile. He asked me out the day he was accepted. We've been long-distance dating since then. So I just asked Bakugou's boyfriend out on a date. Ochako pieced together, groaning as she realized what she had done. He's actually going to kill me. No, he won't, Midoriya told her, chuckling a bit. It's our fault for not telling anyone. Why didn't you tell anyone? Ochako questioned, as she returned to the infirmary bed and dropped her things to let Midoriya know she was no longer going to run. It was Kachan's idea, Midoriya explained, sitting back at the desk. I was new and wanted to make friends here, and he thought it would be difficult for people to separate their impression of me from him. Apparently, he was already hearing comments from people wondering if I had a violent side since we were childhood friends. Some of us did make comments like that, Ochako admitted with a wince. I'm sorry, that wasn't right. He just wanted people to get to know me as the nerdy transferred intern and not as the boyfriend with the guy with the villain quirk. Midoriya paused and held out the bridge of his nose in frustration. His words, not mine. I hate when people label quirks like that. Huh? Ochako murmured. It was strange to learn that Bakugou was dating someone so sincere and kind, and strangely still hear how protective he had been of Midoriya this whole time. Listen, I hope what just happened doesn't make things weird between us. She gave Midoriya a hopeful smile as the healer started back at her with a curious expression. I'd like to spend time with you, even if it's just us friends. No, not at all, he quickly assured, a wide grin finally appearing on his face that Ochako couldn't help but mirror. I'd love being friends with you, too. To the unobservant, it may seem like Aizawa didn't pay attention to his students, but he actually watched their every move. He knew their habits, their typical demeanors. It had started out as a strategic narration to figure out the best way to challenge their comfortable little norms, but after nearly 2 years, it had been more like a parental simply knowing their children. His husband loved to point that out to him at any chance he got. The point of the matter was that he knew what his normal and when something was unusual was occurring within his class. Normally, when his students returned from lunch, they'd trickle in and pair off into their groups to chat a bit more before afternoon class started. He knew that Midoriya had taken to eating lunch with his class, but at the end would report back to the infirmary and recovery girl. So it was strange to see him enter the room following after Uraraka and made a beeline towards Bakugou. Midoriya's field a few waves and greetings along the way from other students, but it was clear his target was Bakugou, who was seated and surrounded by the typical group of friends. The boy in question watched him approach with confusion, just as aware as Aizawa was that this was not a normal behavior. Aizawa watched Midoriya lean down and whisper something into Bakugou's ear. The blonde's eyes widened ever so slightly in response. You told her? He heard Bakugou ask. The boy's red eyes sought out Uraraka, who was standing to the side with her typical group, but was still clearly paying attention to Midoriya and Bakugou's interaction. Aizawa watched her jump slightly from his gaze before giving a nervous little wave. I like to tell everyone if that's okay, Midoriya responded, a hesitant smile on his face. At this point, the students were subtly and obviously eavesdropping on the situation playing out. Aizawa watched as the mysterious grin slowly spread across Bakugou's face, and in the next moment he was pulling Midoriya down by the collar of his lab coat into a deep kiss. For a moment, there was silence, but it didn't last long before everyone began to shout and react to the couple kissing in front of them. Bakugou finally released Midoriya, a satisfied grin on his face as he observed the deep red blush blooming in his boyfriend's cheek. Kachan! What? Bakugou innocently asked as he gestured towards the rest of the class. Everyone knows now, don't they? Oh, Kirishima perked up, a smile grin on his face as he nudged Bakugou with his elbows. So how long has this been going on? Hopefully longer than a few seconds, Jiro said, her tones wavering between excitement and concern. I know you're brash, Bakugou, but I'd like to think you wouldn't just kiss someone out of the blue like that. They've been dating nearly 2 years, Todoroki informed them, apparently hold disinterest with the whole reveal as he didn't even bother to glance up from his phone. And why the hell do you know that? Kaminari questioned, quickly making his way over to see what the other informant Todoroki had that they didn't. Aizawa watched the entire situation play out with a neutral expression, despite how amused he felt with the whole thing. The moment Bakugou had told him that they would be holding off on telling everyone that he was dating Midoriya, he had started to wonder how long the secret would last. Aizawa caught Midoriya's eyes mistfully in the chaos, and the healer quickly sent an apologetic look his way. Sorry, I'm sure you need to start class, Midoriya guessed, trying his best way to edge away from the noisy two-way students, trying to ask him questions about his relationship with Bakugou. Actually, we're going to be running strategy drills this afternoon, Aizawa said, using the announcement as a way to also bring the class to order for the attention. Normally, I have Recovery Girl on standby for injuries, but perhaps you'd like to fill in for her? I would love to, Midoriya agreed, face lighting up at the offer. Everyone get changed into your hero costumes and report to ground beta immediately, Aizawa directed. Already out of the door with only a waiver over his shoulder to indicate Midoriya should follow. Midoriya and I will meet you at the monitoring room. The journey to ground beta monitoring room wasn't long, and Midoriya was far from an unpleasant companion, given his nature ease with carrying conversations. But Aizawa shouldered a feeling of apprehension all the way there. They had nearly reached the site when he finally addressed the dispute, of which Midoriya, audibly, unknowingly, was very much a cause. Principal Nezu told me you'd requested to meet Yuri, Aizawa said, interrupting Midoriya's stream of murmurs as the students wrote something in the journal he'd always kept in his lab pocket. I have, Midoriya confirmed, not looking up from the notebook. Aizawa took a breath. She's been through a lot, he continued. I'm familiar with her case. Sir Nighteye shared some details. The holder gave him, glancing up from his notes with a questioning look in his eye. She's skittish around new people. Midoriya stopped walking. Aizawa stopped a few steps ahead of him when he realized the student was no longer following. He looked back to see Midoriya staring at him with a critical gaze as he pocketed the notebook. They were just outside the monitoring room now, but neither of them moved to open the door and enter. Is this your way of convincing me not to meet her? Midoriya questioned, his tone guarded. It's my way of warning you, Aizawa corrected, refusing to beat around the bush with someone who clearly wasn't as naive as the average teenager. I understand your quirk analysis, but I will not allow you to treat her like a test subject. He opened the door and entered the monitoring room, not bothering to look back to see if Midoriya was following. She's only a child, and the nature of her quirk is already a sensitive topic for her. She thinks she's a curse. I sometimes think that way about my quirk, too. Aizawa stopped and turned around to see Midoriya entering the room and closing the door behind him. The boy's expression showed he was serious, but his words made Aizawa want to laugh. He turned towards the monitoring equipment and powered on the system, drawing up camera views of the ground and a list of student names organized into teams. Your quirk heals. How could that be a curse? Midoriya came up beside him and took off his lab coat, layering it back of the chair before taking a seat. Aizawa glanced his way, wondering if he'd get a response to his earlier question, and did a double take when he saw the now exposed skin of Midoriya's arms. Scars. There were so many of them, small ones and big ones, decorating the surface from his hand all the way to where his shirt sleeve covered his shoulder, though he was certain they'd continue past that under the fabric of his clothes. Some looked rough and uncontrolled, while others seemed to be clean and precise, like they were made with a scalpel. Some seemed almost purposely placed, eventually spaced out in a specific area and all measured the same length, like tally marks. Aizawa recalled Recovery Girl's explanation of Midoriya's quirk and pieced it together with what he saw before him. A feeling of dread slowly and silently building within him. The more severe the injury, the more severe the repercussions, Midoriya said, stretching out his arms in front of him in a way that clearly meant he wanted them to be seen. The only real limit to my ability is myself. If I can't heal someone, then it's my fault. You shouldn't. I shouldn't think that way? Midoriya cut him off as his mouth quirked into a bitter smile. I know I shouldn't. Katsuki hates it when I do. He pulled his arms back towards him and once again retrieved the notebook from his lab coat. I went to Island when I was 5 years old. They put me through rigorous training and experiments to better understand my quirk and help me utilize it to its full potential. Eri can only use her quirk on living beings. I can only use my quirk on injured living beings. He glanced up at Aizawa, who stared back down at him, dawning realization in his eyes. What kind of experiments do you imagine they come up with in order for me to practice? Aizawa opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. What could he possibly say in response to something like that? He was well aware that for as much good as Ice Island did with their research, they were not exempted from the same mortal questionable tendencies that plagued every other institution in the world. He had just never considered something like this. Don't get me wrong, Midoriya continued, when Aizawa remained silent. I am grateful for the opportunities I was given, but they didn't exactly leave me with the best memories. They shouldn't have done that to you, Aizawa finally said, voice soft. Midoriya gave him a more genuine smile, though it was still tinged with pain. I may be analytical, but I know what it feels like to be treated like a test subject, Midoriya told him, turning back to his notebook. I hope you believe me when I say I won't treat Eri the same way. Silence filled the room for a moment before Aizawa let out a sigh and collapsed into one of the other chairs besides Midoriya. He continued pulling up camera views on the monitor and vaguely registered the distant sounds of his students as they drew closer to the room. Thank you for your honesty, Aizawa murmured, pleased when he saw Midoriya smile out of the corner of his eye. I remember reading this fanfic for the first time and reading this chapter specifically for the first time, and I was enraged. I was so enraged. Oh my god, like they put Izuku through this. Like, my poor baby, my baby. Protect my little baby. He doesn't deserve this, right? And then later on, you find out a little more about Izuku's connection with Island, and Jesus Christ, does it make me want to get those researchers and throw them into the deep dark ocean with, bricks tied to their shoes. Like have them sink down to the bottom and never come up. Like, have them just, die, My heart goes out to Uraraka because goddamn, I could never do what you did. I could never confess to my crush. I'm sorry. And then get rejected and still, oh my god. Uraraka was being nice about I'm gonna go and grabbing all her stuff and stuff. Not me. The second I get rejected, oh, would you look at that? I get up and run. That, or I fake pass out. I'm not joking. I would fake an injury just to get out the embarrassment of, getting rejected. I don't think I've ever been rejected. Then again, I very rarely ask my crush out. Actually, no, I've been rejected once. No, wait, no, that doesn't count. That doesn't count because I wasn't asking them out. I just told them my feelings. And we ended up dating, so technically speaking, I didn't get rejected. Can we talk about how Bakugou revealed that he was dating Midoriya? That was hilarious. I remember reading that for the first time, and I legitimately gasped. Because I'm like, hold up. That's how you're gonna choose to tell everybody? Public display of affection like that? Are you sure? Do you want to take it back? This is how we're gonna do it? Okay. This is how we're gonna do it. Alright. Okay. Personally, I would never have the balls to do something like this, but this is Bakugou, So, we've hit 300 subscribers. Actually, right now we have 330 subscribers. I don't know why I'm saying we. You know what? No, I'm gonna continue to say we. It's we because you're a subscriber, so therefore it is we. We've hit 335 subscribers. I can't speak right now. I'm shocked. I started this channel off not thinking it was gonna grow, thinking, oh, I'm gonna get 0 viewers, but it doesn't matter. Like, I'm gonna have fun with it. It doesn't matter. And here I am making sure I have daily upload for you guys so that I could wake up in the morning and read a couple fan fictions because priorities, and then check the comment sections of my videos, or like check the comments and see if anybody has commented, because actually that is my favorite part of YouTube. Comments. I love the comments. I love like all the comments. Like, I wish I was joking. I check them like a lot. I check those a lot more than I probably should. I probably should be checking the likes or the views or the watch hours or the subscribers, but nah, the comments. I love the comments. I love you guys so much. No, I do. So make sure to eat, sleep, drink your water, take your meds, and I mean this because I appreciate you guys and you need to do all that stuff. That stuff is important. Have a wonderful day or night. Join the community server, please. I'm lonely there. Link is in the description. And subscribe to see more of my content. And thank you so much for watching.